Hi, there you are. Oh, you caught me drinking my coffee. Welcome to another episode of Pine Hill Cookin' right here in Pine Hill Cabin in Lost Creek, Kentucky. And today we're going to be doing our take on the old school traditional pizza, just like they used to make back in the late 70s and 80s. I guess I'm telling my age a little bit here now, but when we were in school at that time, there was nothing like pizza day at school. And I'm a teacher and I'm in school, and the pizza that the kids get right now is awesome. I'm not saying it's not, because they love it, but there was something about that old school pizza that they used to make back in that time that you just can't find anymore. So come with us today. We're going to be hanging out right here in the kitchen, and we're going to be making that delicious pizza that you might remember. So with me today is my son Jacob, and he's going to be helping me make the crust for the pizza. And to make the crust, you're going to need a mixing bowl. You're going to need, of course, flour. We have 2.5 cups of flour. You're going to need some sugar. We have a teaspoon of sugar, and then we have a half teaspoon of salt, and we have a cup of warm water. And then, of course, also we have 1 packet of active dry yeast. So we're going to go ahead and pour in the yeast in the mixing bowl. Okay, good. And then to the yeast, we're going to add the sugar. And then let's add in the cup of warm water. Now, not hot water, but slightly warm water. Now we're going to take our spoon and we're going to stir it in. Mix it all in. Make sure that the yeast and everything gets all mixed in with the sugar and the water. And this is the first start. That's a plastic spoon.
Is it like Pioneer Woman or what?
I think so.
This spoon is Pioneer Woman?
Go ahead and mix all that into our bowl. After we do that, we're going to set it aside for about 10 minutes or until it starts getting frothy, and that way we know that the yeast has been activated and it's ready to mix in our flour. Okay, so it's almost ready. You can see that the yeast is active now. It's starting to get that frothy look. So you're going to want to have a large mixing bowl, just like we have here. We have our 2.5 cups of flour. Oh, one thing that I forgot before was 1 tablespoon of olive oil. I didn't get anything big. I just got the Great Value olive oil. Not extra virgin, just regular olive oil. And then we have our salt. Remember, a half teaspoon of salt. So what I'm going to do is take the flour, and I'm going to go ahead and pour it into the mixing bowl. It's 2.5 cups of flour. I'm going to mix in 1 tablespoon of olive oil. A half teaspoon of salt. And I think that this is just about ready. So while I'm waiting on that, I'm just going to stir this around. Mix all of this in. And then we'll get ready to add in our yeast mixture here. I'm going to give it just another couple minutes before we start. So when you're working with yeast, once again, it's really important not to get the water too hot. You don't want it cold. You want it just a nice warm temperature. Throw in that sugar in there with the dry yeast to get it all activated. Then once it starts to bubble and foam, after about 10 minutes, you know that it's almost ready to go. In fact, this is smelling so good, and it smells like it's almost ready to go. So let's go ahead and pour the yeast mixture in with the flour, the olive oil, and the salt that we have in our mixing bowl, and let's stir that around. We're going to stir that around until it starts to come together, and then we're going to stop stirring it and we're going to knead it. Knead it with our hands. You're going to knead that for about 5 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with mixing in the yeast mixture. Okay, so Jacob is going to help us start with the dough. He has our yeast mixture that's really good and frothy. He's going to go ahead and pour that into, just go ahead and pour the whole thing in. There we go. And you can set that over in the sink. And then he's going to mix just start stirring. Yeah, don't get too vigorous. Just go ahead and stir it in and get all of that mixed in together. Now you're gonna want to mix in the yeast mixture with all the other stuff that we put in there already, the flour, the olive oil, and the salt, until it starts to form a dough ball. So we've not stirred it very long at all, and you can see that it's all come together in a nice fluffy ball. And so I'm gonna stop stirring, and I'm actually gonna knead this with my hands, get all the stuff off the sides, put it in there, knead it for about 5 minutes. So it's 6:07 right now according to the stove, and so I will come back after I have kneaded this. And when I say knead, I just mean exactly like that. Just fold it, squeeze it, fold it and squeeze it. Knead it all in with your hands. And we're gonna do that for about 5 minutes. So I'll see you then. So after about 5 minutes, you're gonna be ready to let this rest. Now I've been kneading this pretty good for about 5 minutes, and you might think, well, how do I know it's ready? Well, one way that you can tell is called the elasticity test. The more that you knead the dough with the yeast and the sugar and the water in there and all the other ingredients, the more elastic it's gonna feel. So when you pull it up and it can stretch out like this, you know, it's pretty elastic right there. It's not breaking off like it was before. So right now I'm going to put this in the bowl, and I'm going to cover it. You can either cover it with a towel, clean towel, or you can cover it with plastic wrap. And we're gonna let that sit for about 20 minutes. And it should double in size in that 20 minutes. So I'm gonna stop kneading, cover this up, we're gonna let this sit, and while it's doing that, doubling in size and doing its cooking magic, we're going to be cooking some sausage and getting things ready for our toppings for our old-fashioned school cafeteria style pizza. Okay, so now if you remember the traditional school pizza, all it really had was the dough, which is resting right now. It had meat, usually either a hamburger topping or a sausage topping, and the sauce, and lots and lots of cheese. So I'm going to be doing half of the pizza that we're making today, just that old school traditional style way, mostly because my son Jacob will not eat anything else, except maybe some pepperoni. So I may put some pepperoni on his. But I'm gonna be putting other things on the other half of the pizza just to jazz it up. You can make this pizza any style that you want to, but you'll see that half of it will look like the old school style pizza. So I'm gonna show you some of the ingredients that I'm gonna be using. Instead of tomato sauce, I'm gonna be using spaghetti sauce. I have found over the years that this is a really good substitute for pizza sauce, okay? And tomato sauce with some herbs in it would work in a pinch if you didn't have anything else and you had a can of tomato paste or tomato sauce. Mix in some herbs and you're ready to go. But spaghetti sauce works too, and it's great on pizza. I'm going to, of course, be using mozzarella cheese, because what's pizza without a lot of cheese? I'm going to be using pepperoni. For mine and Lisa's side, we're also going to be chopping up a bell pepper. Awesome. And an onion. And for the whole thing, of course, you know, you have to have a meat topping. And you could use hamburger if you don't like it as spicy, but I'm just going to be using a pack of sausage, and we're going to be making sausage crumbles for the pizza. And also we're going to just pan-sear some of this sliced ham to stick on there as well. So you can put as many toppings as you want to. Like I said, today we're going to use half just traditional, like you would see in the cafeteria, and the other half is going to be jazzed up just a little bit. So since I'm going to be putting sausage on the entire pizza, I just went on ahead and put a whole roll of sausage in there. And to make the crumbles, this is the best thing that I have found. This little handy tool right here. It is great for hamburger, it's great for making sausage crumbles, anything that you want to chop up. I even used it on broccoli the other day. I wanted to sort of puree up the broccoli to put in the soup. This was amazing. So I'm just going to do this, and as it cooks, it will crumble. So I'm going to be using this time right now to cook my sausage, and then I'm going to go on ahead and chop up the onion and the bell pepper and get those all chopped up and clean, and get everything ready for our pizza. After that, I'll be able to see how that's already starting to just chop that up. The more you cook it, the better. It'll crumble. And then after that, I'll just be ready to preheat my oven, and we'll be ready to put all of our ingredients together. This sausage is almost done. Like, what did I tell you? This little tool is awesome. Those are the perfect sausage crumbles. They're going to be so delicious on a pizza. Like I said, some people use hamburger, or you could even use like half and half hamburger, half sausage, mix it together so you get a little bit of a taste of the sausage in there, but it's not like all sausage. So you can put either or. So that looks like it is done. Very nice. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Give it one more stir. Let that sit off the heat. And then we are going to clean our onion and bell pepper, chop it up, be ready to go. Okay, so I have the oven preheating at 450 degrees because that is what we need it to be at. I have my sausage over here. It is all crumbled up. And you'll notice that I have right in here some butter. I love to use real butter with this. I'm going to be just giving these a quick stir in butter. I have 1 bell pepper, green bell pepper chopped up, and I have a half of a red onion. And I'm going to be putting that in there along with some ham. And I'm just going to not even cut this. I'm just going to rip it up with my fingers and stick it in there. And I'm not going to cook it for a very long time. I'm only going to cook it maybe for like a minute or two just to start softening it up because I don't want it fully cooked. I just want it to start that process. And then when we put it on our pizza, it's all going to be so good. So I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, take the bell pepper, stick that in there, take the onion, put that in there. And then I'll stir that in, and then I will let that start cooking in the butter. Just give it a little bit more flavor. Not gonna cook it long, for like a minute or two on medium to medium-high heat. Once it starts cooking, I'm gonna time it for about a minute. So I'm gonna go ahead and rip up some of this ham, put that in there, let this cook for just about a minute, and then we'll start putting our pizza together because our dough should be just about done. So this has only been cooking for about 2 minutes. And like I said, I don't want it to be cooked yet because it's going to finish baking in the oven. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. And we'll just let this cook here. Oh, it smells so good. The ham with the onions and the green peppers. I wish you could smell this because it smells awesome. And I'm going to just take that off from heat and let that sit there. Next, we're going to go and check on our dough. Okay, now it's time for the unveiling, and we're going to, as you can see, the laser light that Jacob is shining. Please don't do that. Thank you. And you can see that our dough has about doubled in size. So yay, it has done exactly what I need it to do. So I'm going to be taking this dough ball, and I have lined my pan with some parchment paper. I'm going to fold it up a little bit more. I'm going to put that on here, and then I'm going to smear it out, spread it out evenly all over the pan. Once I do that, I'm going to take a fork, and I'm going to poke holes all through it. If you remember the old school pizza, it always had those little fork holes in it. Then I'm going to take some olive oil, and I'm going to brush it over. Now, if you don't have a brush, which I don't, just use some paper towel. Some clean paper towel, put some olive oil on it, and just smear it all over it. So that's our next step.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, so all I'm doing right now is just using my fingers, and I have my parchment paper on here, and I'm just going to use my fingers to spread this out in a nice rectangular shape to fit the pan. Once you do that, then I'm going to be taking, it's going to be a really thin dough, and that's the way it should be, because when it cooks, it's going to rise a little bit too. I like to use parchment paper when I do this because I don't want to have a big mess to clean up. I'm all about easy, easy, easy. So, we're going to do this, Then I'm going to get a fork and poke some holes and put the olive oil on it. So I have my son Jacob here, and he is going to help put the fork holes in the dough. And it doesn't have to be perfect. As you know, all this does is help like the oil get down into the dough mixture, the tomato sauce, which we're using spaghetti sauce, and everything is just gonna cook up really, really good. So he is going to finish that up, and then once he gets all the holes poked in there, we are going to, like I said, take some paper towel, and we're going to spread on top the olive oil. Okay, so we have our fork holes made. So all I'm gonna do now is just lightly put a thin layer of oil on there. Take a clean paper towel, and then I'm just going to, now if you have a brush and you wanna do it with the brush, you can, but I'm just gonna dab this on here with the paper towel, okay? I'm gonna put a little bit more because I wanna make sure that there is enough oil to coat the entire crust. This is going to be amazing. Now mine is not perfectly shaped, so don't think that it has to be. This is, homemade stuff. You make it for you and your family. It's not like you're making it for a restaurant. So once this is done, all I have to do then is put on the topping. So here it is, all smeared with the oil. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to make half of this just the traditional and the other half with all the other good stuff. So I'm gonna start by spreading on the tomato paste, or in this case, the spaghetti sauce. Okay, so Jacob is ready to start smearing on the spaghetti sauce, and we're just gonna smear it all over, and it's gonna be awesome. This is a wonderful, wonderful meal to make with your kids because there's so many things that they can do to help. And if they get some off the dough, it's fine. It goes into the parchment paper, so this is gonna be an easy cleanup anyway, but just have them try their very best and do their very best and encourage them. After this, we're gonna sprinkle in some cheese. Okay, we are ready for the cheese. Jacob is going to start taking handfuls of cheese. And the good thing about pizza like this is there is no way to mess up the cheese, unless you don't put enough cheese. I am a firm believer in lots of cheese. And this is the next topping on our old-fashioned, old-school cafeteria pizza. Okay, now that we have the cheese on here, we're going to do the sausage crumbles that we had earlier. And I have drained these, and now I'm just going to sprinkle them on. Now, if this was the traditional old-style pizza like we got in school, this would be it. This would be ready to go in the oven, ready to bake and eat, because as you remember, it was meat, cheese, and sauce on a crust just like this. But since we're gonna jazz it up a little bit and make half of it just a little bit extra special, what I'm going to do is leave half of this for Jacob, just like we used to get in school back in the 70s and 80s when I was in elementary school. And so this half is gonna be yours, Jacob. And then the other half, I'm gonna be putting that wonderful mixture of bell pepper, ham, and onion on top as well. And you could put other things on there. If you just want traditional, just make it traditional. If you want to add black olives, if you want to add, I don't know, what else do you like? What else do people like? Mushrooms. What do you like on your pizza, Jacob? Pepperoni?
Yeah, but you're getting it on my side. Get it off, get it off.
There we go. No, look at that. That is a perfect straight line. So now, do you want pepperoni on your half as well?
No.
Okay. So the last thing we're going to do before this goes in the oven, and when we put it in the oven, we're gonna bake it at 450 degrees for 15 minutes. Check it after 15 minutes. Some ovens may take longer. After that 15 minutes, if you notice that everything's starting to melt and the crust looks like it's getting brown, then you are ready. You could even put on the broiler, and I may do that too for just a minute or two, just to make sure that everything on top is good and brown and crispy. So this is going to be An amazing homemade pizza from start to finish. And all we have to do now is pop it in the oven. So here we go. I have my oven preheated, 450 degrees. Put that right in there. And we're gonna check it here in about 15 minutes, see if it's done. Hey, you're back. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna check the pizza. Now it's been in there about 15 minutes. I turned it off and I put it on broil. I'm gonna broil it on high for just a minute, 2 minutes at the most. Let me check and see how it's looking. And I think our pizza is ready. So I'm gonna go on ahead, take that out. I've got my pizza cutter handy because we're gonna cut it into those rectangular slices just like they used to have in school. So we'll go ahead and turn off the broiler and let's take a look and see how our pizza turned out. Ooey gooey, cheesy, yummy. Take your pizza cutter and start right here. And I'm just gonna cut right down the middle. And then I'm going to cut this into those nice rectangular shapes that we loved so much in school. Now remember, half of this is traditional. I did add some pepperoni for Jacob. Half of it has been jazzed up. But look at this. Let me get a plate. And we will see how our pizza, let me get one of these middle pieces turned out. Oh, cut it enough. Let me cut this again. And we will see how this looks. Now, if you don't have a pizza cutter, you can use a knife. And we are ready to taste wonderful, wonderful pizza. It's coming right up. Plate it up. Oh my goodness. Look at that. And I think that this is just going to be wonderful. So let me get a fork because, you know, you can sit here and cook it, but if it doesn't taste good, so I'm going to do the taste test and then we'll let you do the taste test and we'll see what you think. Just like school. Just like school. I think I'm back in 4th grade again. And it's very hot. Take a taste. Anyway, I think you're gonna love this. Old school cafeteria style pizza that you can make at home. Super easy. Enjoy. Thank you for another episode of Pine Hill Cooking. Right here in beautiful Pine Hill Cabin. I hope you liked the video. If you do, just give us a thumbs up and we'll see you next time. Bye.